So in today's video, I'm going to be making 3 cutting boards out of walnut and maple. Then I'm going to do the whole process. I'm going to engrave them, cut them out. I'm going to do the whole thing. So stay tuned to see the whole entire video. Alright, so the first step in making these cutting boards is I have to take my rough lumber and I have to cut it down to 16 inches. So I'll cut all these down into 16 inches on the chop saw. So I have walnut and maple, both about the same length. So I'll measure this out and I'll see how long they are. It's about 75 inches. So then I'll divide that up and I'll cut it up on the chop saw. So now I'm going to cut it up on the chop saw and I'll show you guys what it looks like after I'm done. Alright, so I just finished cutting all these up into 16-inch pieces. So I have four of each. So this is about 5 inches wide. My cutting boards are 10 inches. So I'm gonna cut these up into strips later. So this should make me about 4 cutting boards if I don't mess up any. So so now I'm going to get the saw stop ready to go, and then I'll cut these up into the strips. All right, so I got the table saw all set up. So now on all these boards, I'm just gonna get one straight edge on the table saw, so that way I can put that up against the fence, and then I'll cut out all the lines perfectly. So I'm gonna show you guys how I do that for the first one. Put on the safety glasses, and then I just set this up, and I barely skim off a little bit of the wood. So we'll switch this up. Alright. So now, all I gotta do is turn this on now, and then I'm gonna start popping out. Alright, so there, now it's smooth instead of rough like that. And that's what I'm going to do for the rest of these 7 boards. All right, so now I have to cut all these boards up into their strips. So how I'm going to cut this up is I'm going to do 2 2-inch strips and then 1 1-inch strip. Because I'm going to use 4 2-inch strips and 2 1-inch strips to glue these boards up together. It's 50-50 walnut and maple. So yeah, so now I'm going to I have this set to 1 inch. And I'm just gonna cut I'm gonna cut 1 inch off all these. That way I don't do it last, because if I did it last, then my fingers would be super close to the blade. Versus now I can just push it straight through with this like that. So, all right, I'm gonna do that now. All right, so I got all these strips cut out, and now it's time to glue them all up. So I'm gonna glue up 2 boards in 1 set now. So I'm gonna get these all in here, and I'll show you guys, and I'll do 10 loops of it. Alright, so all the boards are done being, they dried up overnight. So now I'm going to take all these boards out, and then I have to scrape off the glue from the bottom. So yeah, I'll show you guys how I do that on this board, and then I'll do the other 2 boards after this. Alright, so yeah, I prefer to use these 3/4-inch pipe, half-inch pipe clamps, because I think they clamp onto the board better. I have other clamps that I use too, because I don't have that many of these. So these are my preferred ones. So if you guys are going to buy them, I would get pipe clamps. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this on this bottom side and just go like this. It should come off pretty easily if you have decently sharp chisels. And also, always make sure that your hand is behind the blade of where the chisel is. That way you don't accidentally cut yourself. But there you go. And I'm gonna do that for the other 2 boards. All right. So one thing, whenever you're using your planer to make it easier, is get one of these blocks. I think they're about $30. But you can plug in your tool and then your vacuum. So then whenever you turn on your tool, in this case the planer, the vacuum will start, and then whenever you shut the planer off, the vacuum will run for 10 seconds to clear out the vacuum hose. But that'll make it way easier instead of having to turn on and off the vacuum while you're doing that. But you don't have to get it. All right, So the next step now is I have to put one of these boards on the planer sled so I can get the sides flat, one side flat, to put the other side through the planer. So I just put this on here. Sometimes you have to, since I didn't scrape off the glue last time, I might have to take off the glue. But no, not today, I don't think. Let's check, make sure it's pretty, okay, yeah, we don't need to. But now, so now I just take the hot glue gun and I'll do right here. So I just take it and just put glue here, not too much. And I'll just do that all around. That way it'll hold it into place. And then after this dries, I'll take this cutting board and I'll chuck it through the planer and it'll get smooth. I'll show you that next. All right, so now I'm about to plane this board and I'll do this multiple times. All right, yeah, so I'm just gonna repeat that. I didn't plan off anything on that run, but I'm gonna repeat that for all 3 boards. All right, so now that I have all these planed, I'm gonna cut them down to size on the chop saw, and I'll do time lapse for you guys. All right, guys, so now it's time to router the edges on all the cutting boards. So here, I'll show you guys how to do it on this one side. You also want to make sure that you put it deep, like you put it deep enough. But one tip or whatever, whenever you're doing this, if you have a router table, is to make a box for underneath the table, underneath here. That way you can collect all of the dust and it doesn't go everywhere. But yeah, all right, I'm gonna adjust this real quick, and then I'll do a time lapse of me routering out all these. All right, so I'm gonna sand these and then I'll catch back up with you guys whenever I'm about to put finish on. All right, guys. So now I have gotten 2 of these cutting boards completely sanded. They're routed and they're engraved. And the other one I haven't got engraved yet, so that's why I'm not finishing it. But yeah, all right. So now I'm gonna show you guys the process of what I'm going to do to finish these cutting boards up. All right, so the first step I'll do is, obviously set this over to the side for now, is basically this is the cutting board oil that I use. I just use some Howard's cutting board oil, and then I just use a paper towel to wipe it on. So I use these bench cookies, and I do the front, I do the back first. That way whenever I use these things, that way the finish won't like stick to the bench cookies. And I use these because then it will be doing this and it will mark up the back and not the front of the cutting board. So now I'm going to get this out, and I just use one little paper towel and do this. Just go on. Oh, also make sure your bench cookies are underneath like here, that way they don't get oil on them. And then yeah, I just put about this much oil on, if you can see. Take your paper towel. Sometimes you have to add more, but yeah. All right, so just rub it in, and then take the edges. I did like the edges over on this side, and then yeah, so I'll just get all the edges around. Get finished on them all. All right, so now that I got this side finished up, I'll take it to this side, over here, put them on here, and then get you guys even more closer. Up, be on this. Okay, right there. Now you can see. I'll take the oil, do more oil on top. Usually don't need as much since your oil's already been soaked into your towel by now. And then, yeah, just get this all finished up. And yeah, by the way, I use an X-Tool D1 Pro, I'm pretty sure is what it's called, to engrave my cutting boards. Because it leaves a nice gear settings, right? But I use power 60, speeds 80 to get this type of finish on a maple. Like type of engraving on a maple. Alright, so now I'm just gonna take this and set it back here. And then I'm just gonna repeat that step for the next cutting board, and I'll do that for however many cutting boards I have. Alright, so guys, so now I got both of these done. I got this one and this one. They're both finished. They have these rubber feet on them, so they're like they're 1/2 inch. That way they get off the ground. And also, that way, if your board isn't perfectly flat, you only have to level these 4 spots. These little 4 spots right there, where the feet are. Because you can just put washers behind it and then you level it out. But yeah, so these boards are both ready to go and being ready to go out and be shipped to the customers. Alright guys, so yeah, now that you guys just saw the montage of these 2 cutting boards, please leave a like, subscribe, turn on the bell notification, and I'll see you later. Bye.